I am the most laughable princess of Great Xia. Father Emperor hates me. My imperial brother humiliates me. All because I saved the enemy hostage 7 years ago. The Iron Cavalry commander, who now tramples our land, is the one I protected for 7 years. The heads of my loved ones hang from the city gate. Beneath the silver armor are his icy eyes. Achi, who once curled up in my arms for warmth, is now the crown prince of the Northern Kingdom, Mo Zeyuan. Nanny's blood still stains the crevices of the secret compartment. Princess, run, run? Where can I go? My homeland is lost, my family scattered. I push aside the scorched wood, my fine robes covered in ashes, but I straighten my back, and walk step by step toward that familiar yet stranger. I look up at his cold eyes, a smile curling at my lips. Achi, now that you've struck it rich, won't you share your fortune with me? Mo Zeyuan turns at the sound, he spins around, dismounts swiftly, and walks toward me. His fingers, stained with the blood of my father and brother, gently brush across my cheek, leaving a sticky, cold red trail. Your Highness, the princess. His voice is low and hoarse. Go back first, I'll pick you up later. Go back where? The place I could return to has already turned to ashes in the fire. But I smile, and nod vigorously. Fine, I'll wait for you. He sends 2 soldiers to escort me, leading me away from the ruined palace, and tosses me into a barely intact side hall. Inside, the furnishings are in disarray, valuables already looted. I stumble to the window, push open a half-broken lattice, and my heart stops. On the main city gate tower in the distance, hang several blurry dark spots. One of them is my imperial father. I recognize that bright yellow dragon robe, even now covered in filth and blood. And another, my gaze, fixates on the head beside it. The head on the tower, hair disheveled, covered in mud, those eyes that once always glared at Achi and me with contempt, are now just 2 bloody hollows. It's third imperial brother. He used to love bullying Achi and me, pushing Achi's head into the water vat, tormenting him freely. That proud person, now died so miserably, so undignified. Third imperial brother, I whisper, my fingers unconsciously picking at the peeling vermilion paint on the windowsill, the lacquer flaking off. Mo Zeyuan didn't keep me waiting long. He changed out of that blood-stained heavy armor and put on a black brocade robe. It made him look even more imposing, but the gloom and murderous aura in his eyes were still thick and impenetrable. Princess. He stepped into the side hall. His voice was slightly gentler than before, but still carried that aloofness of a superior, like a layer of frost. Your Highness. I lowered my eyes. Following the old rites of Daxia, I bent my knees slightly. His brows furrowed almost imperceptibly. He said nothing. Then, from behind him, a woman dressed in Northern Kingdom attire stepped out. Her face was radiant, her gaze sharp. This is the daughter of the Northern Kingdom's high priest, my crown princess, Lanzu. She will take care of your daily needs from now on. Lanzu's gaze scanned me from head to toe. It finally settled on my dusty and blood-stained work clothes. She made no effort to hide her disdain, curling her lips. She turned sideways and said something in the Northern Kingdom language to Mo Zeyuan. Her voice was coy, with a light, lilting tone. Princess, please bear with it here for now. Once the construction is cleared, we will make other arrangements for you. Thank you, Your Highness. Her gaze lingered on my face for a moment. Her eyes were complex and unreadable. Let Lanzu know if you need anything. With that, he turned and left. The hem of his black robe cut a cold, hard arc through the air. Crown Princess Lanzu stayed behind. He didn't look at me much. He just raised his hand to command 2 burly northern serving women to start cleaning. They were rough in their movements, trampling and discarding the remaining old items without care. Shards of porcelain and broken wood made harsh sounds against the stone floor. One of the serving women bent down and, from the mess, picked up a cracked jade vase. Its surface was covered with fine, web-like cracks. It gave off a fragile silver-white gleam in the dim light. Wait! I walked over. I gently took from her rough hands that broken half-vase. Its cold touch through my palm felt like holding a piece of unmelted ice. Give this to me. I'll handle it. The serving woman was taken aback. She looked back at Lanzu. Lanzu raised an eyebrow and looked over. There was a mix of scrutiny and amusement in her eyes. She walked slowly to stand in front of me. Northern women are naturally tall, and she was wearing high boots, so now she looked down on me. Your Highness, the princess. She deliberately dragged out those 4 words, her tone dripping with undisguised mockery. Since you're so reluctant to part with these old things, why not let these relics of the former dynasty keep you company while you sleep? She ordered the servants to take all the ceramic shards and dump them onto my soft couch. They were scattered everywhere. The crown prince is merciful. To spare your wretched life, you should be grateful. She stepped on my dress. Don't say we didn't take care of you properly. I looked up and forced a smile. Thank you, crown prince, for sparing my life. Seeing me so docile, Lanzu was instead speechless. A clever maid beside her saw this, stepped forward and snorted. I thought the great Xia princess was something special. Turns out she's just good at playing pitiful to cling to men. What a bad omen. Reminded by the maid, a malicious grin crept back onto Lanzu's face. She tilted her chin toward the servant women. What are you waiting for? Let the princess have a good try of her new bed, see if it's soft enough. Two stout servant women suddenly shoved me onto the couch. My back crashed down hard. Shards pierced my skin like countless tiny blades of ice digging into my flesh. My body curled instinctively. It hurt a lot, but not even a 10,000th of the pain of losing my kingdom, not half the pain of seeing my loved ones die. Horribly, thinking of that, I just let myself bear the pain, like a doll, completely unresponsive. They found it boring and turned to leave. Grime soaked into the wounds, shards kept rubbing against them. The pain of festering infection burned my consciousness until it blurred. After who knows how long, a chill touched my forehead. I forced my eyes open. In my blurred vision, it was actually Mo Zeyuan's cold face. When I woke again, the bed beneath me was soft and dry, newly made, the shards were gone, and it seemed my wounds had been treated. Mo Zeyuan stood by the bed, his expression unreadable. I struggled to sit up. Ah Chi, you're here. You're so busy with official matters now, how do you have time? I suddenly stopped. I saw in his eyes not a trace of concern, only cold scrutiny and impatience. Princess, how is it that now you too have learned to use such a cheap trick of playing up your injuries? I was stunned, not understanding. Then I saw Lanzu approaching with a bowl of medicine, her face wearing just the right amount of worry and grievance. She brought the spoon to my lips. Princess, please drink it while it's warm. He turned to look at Mo Zeyuan, his tone softening. Your Highness, please don't misunderstand the princess. She must have wanted you to come see her, so she hurt herself like this. Princess, even if you're throwing a tantrum, you shouldn't take it out on your own body. I instinctively turned my head, dodging the spoonful of black, pungent medicine. But Lanzu let out an ah, and suddenly jerked her wrist. The entire bowl of scalding medicine spilled out completely. The hot liquid poured all over me. Most of it landed on my unhealed wounds and bare skin. A searing pain shot through me. I curled up. Cold sweat soaked my clothes. I nearly fainted from the pain. Mo Zeyuan's face changed instantly. He stepped forward, but he didn't even glance at me. Instead, he grabbed Lanju's hand, her slightly reddened hand. His eyes were full of undisguised concern. When he turned to look at me, there was only biting disappointment and coldness. Anning, how could you do this? Harming those who truly care for you? I watched him twist the truth, and my nose stung. I suddenly remembered the old ACI. Back then, he couldn't bear to say a harsh word to me. When I threw a tantrum and smashed the wooden carving he made, he would only gently soothe me. Don't be upset, princess. I'll make you a better one. I lowered my lashes, staring at the glaring Northern Kingdom tattoo on my neck. I dug my nails into my palm. I didn't even notice my nails breaking and bleeding. I was wrong. I won't do it again. He seemed pleased with my confession. He has learned his lesson. My consort, be magnanimous. Spare him this once. Lanju immediately broke into a smile through her tears. She nestled into his arms. Of course, Your Highness. I am not a petty person. They left together, their silhouettes so well matched. But my Aki once held my hand and said he would marry me one day. No, that's wrong. It was Aki who made that promise, not the exalted Crown Prince Mo Zeyuan. This winter seems especially cold. The cold wind seeps through the window cracks. I shrank my neck, pulling at the wound on my neck, causing another sharp pain. The Northern Kingdom was originally nomadic. Now they occupy the palace of our great Shah, and have even made it their capital. The next day, I heard that Mo Zeyuan encountered assassins. Many people were arrested in the palace. Lanzu kindly led me to watch the execution of these assassins. On the execution ground, those kneeling with their hands bound, upon seeing me, their ashen faces suddenly lit up with astonishing brightness. Princess. It's Princess Anning. You're alive. Your old servant knew it. The bloodline of Great Shah still lives. Heaven will not destroy Great Xia. I recognize them. That one was the Grand Tutor who always complained I didn't study hard, and wrapped my hands with a ruler. That one was the censor who reported my improper behavior to my father for climbing a tree to get a kite. And that one, at a palace banquet, the senior imperial clan elder who shook his head at my lack of decorum. I never thought they would be so foolish. They had a chance to escape. Why did they come back, like a mantis trying to stop a chariot? I never expected it. Your Highness, the princess, these officials of your Daxia are truly loyal to you. Even on their deathbed, they are thinking of you. Aren't you touched? I lowered my eyes, hiding all emotions. I performed a proper palace bow. A person from a fallen kingdom being protected by your Highness and the consort is already a blessing. I dare not covet more. She was satisfied with my tact, then became even more contemptuous. Indeed, one must know how to cling to survive. Since you're so sensible, I'll grant you a favor. He waved his hand casually. The maid beside him immediately brought out a coarse clay bowl. It was filled with a murky, sour-smelling paste. Here, right in front of these rebels and traitors. Eat it all up, then give us a couple of good dog barks. I'll reward you as the most obedient dog of our Northern Kingdom. How about that? Her maid stepped forward and pressed down on the back of my neck. The edge of the coarse clay bowl knocked against my temple. In my nostrils, it immediately filled with a nauseating stench. I gritted my teeth, but a low chuckle escaped my throat. Crown Princess, treating the princess of the fallen dynasty like this, in front of so many people. Aren't you afraid that word will get out and people will criticize you for being narrow-minded? Can't tolerate even a defenseless person from a fallen kingdom? Lanju gave a cold smile. She took something from her sleeve and flashed it before my eyes. It was a jade pendant carved with the wolf totem of the Northern Kingdom. Many years ago, when He had a high fever that wouldn't break, I hid it from father and mother emperor. I begged the imperial physician for medicine to save his life. After he woke up, he pressed this pendant into my hand. A crisp cracking sound interrupted my memory. Lanju had hurled the jade pendant to the ground. The jade shattered instantly. This is His Highness the Crown Prince's personal jade pendant. How could it be on you, a base princess of a fallen kingdom? Could it be that you had filthy thoughts, and dared to covet His Highness the Crown Prince? That was clearly a token of love. He knelt in the snow, tugged at my robe, and forced into my hand. But now it's all shattered. Just like the future he once described to me, those visions have long turned into a blurry mess of mud. Lanju stared at my pale face. A cruel smile curled at the corner of her mouth. Now this bowl of dog food, are you going to eat it or not? I lower my eyes, trembling, and reach out my hand. What's going on? A familiar voice stabs into my eardrums like an ice pick. My eyes redden at the corners. I look up at the man walking toward me in a hurry. But he doesn't even spare me a glance. His eyes first land on the broken jade pendant on the ground. His face instantly darkens, as if it could drip with water. The arrogance on her face is held back. She instantly switches to a pitiful look on the verge of tears. She quickly throws herself into his arms. Your Highness, you're finally here. I secretly investigated and discovered that Ning was hiding your personal jade pendant. If news of such a scandal gets out, wouldn't it damage your reputation? I only asked a couple of questions, and she flew into a rage and smashed the pendant. Mo Zeyuan's gaze finally lifts from the fragments. Slowly, it moves to my face. In those deep, unfathomable eyes, I can't read any emotion. He steps closer, one step at a time. He looks down at me, with a wound on my forehead, my clothes in disarray. Did you break it? I open my mouth, but my throat is too dry to make a sound. I try to explain that Lanju broke the jade, that the promise he once treasured and gave me has now become a tool for others to frame me. Would he even believe me if I told him? Those words about a self-inflicted injury from yesterday still echo clearly in my ears. I look at him, at those eyes so familiar yet so strange. In the end, I just shake my head very lightly. It wasn't me. If not you, then who? Are you saying I broke it myself? Your Highness, so many eyes are watching. Mo Zeyuan doesn't look at Lanju. His gaze remains fixed on me. He suddenly bends down and picks up the largest piece of debris at his feet. His fingertips rub against the broken edge. Just an old piece of jade. He casually tosses the fragment aside. Maybe it's for the best that it's broken. It's hard to tell who that's aimed at. Then his gaze falls on the foul dog food that was knocked over that night and then brought back. His brow furrows almost imperceptibly. Since you were a princess of the former dynasty, you should know your place. Accept the favor the crown princess bestows on you. With his words, my heart sinks into the deepest, coldest abyss, frozen completely numb. He turns and tosses a word to Lanju. Clean it up. Don't dirty the place. And then he doesn't look at me again. He walks away without a backward glance. Lanju's face lights up with victory and smugness, even more blatant than before. Did you hear that? His Highness commanded that you graciously accept this favor. She gestures to the two sturdy maids. What are you waiting for? Help our princess. My head was pushed down hard again. The rancid stench filled my nostrils. In that moment, I felt like I was back 7 years ago. That cold afternoon, I dragged that dying youth from under the wild dogs. He was covered in blood. Achi, if I had known this day would come, would I have still saved you? I closed my eyes in resignation. Let me eat for the princess. Let me do it. Let me. An earth-shattering roar suddenly erupted. Those old ministers kneeling on the ground scrambled to their feet. The old imperial censor broke free from the guards and lunged headfirst at the clay bowl, clutching it tightly to his chest. He grabbed a handful of the rancid paste and shoved it into his mouth. It's nothing, princess. I'm hungry. The Grand Tutor and the Imperial clan chief also scrambled like mad. Don't be afraid, princess. I can endure this little hardship. They kept stuffing the dog food into their mouths. Filth dribbled from the corners of their mouths, yet they still stared at me intently. With the princess alive, Daxia has hope. Lanju's face turned livid with rage. She roared fiercely, mutiny. Stop them, beat them to death. The soldiers' clubs rained down heavily on the old ministers. Bone cracks and screams mixed, but they still desperately guarded that bowl of dog food. Don't touch the princess. Let me do it. My eyes flickered wildly, looking at those who were once the most rigid, the old fossils who valued etiquette and honor the most. Now for me, They scrambled to devour the slop of pigs and dogs, just to shield me from this moment of humiliation. My nose stung. The sudden turn of events made Lan Zhu's face turn livid. She shouted harshly, "Look carefully. She is no longer a princess. You need to recognize her status now." Then her gaze shot toward me again, cold and venomous. "You too must know your place." She jerked her chin at the maids. "Hold her down." The sturdy maids immediately stepped forward and pinned me firmly to the ground. My face pressed against the rough, cold flagstones. Lan Zhu, from the guard's waist at her side, drew a gleaming dagger. Slowly, she crouched down. The cold blade tip lightly pressed against my cheek. "Since you won't obey, then I'll carve it clearly on your face, so that you remember every moment what kind of wretch you are now." The blade suddenly pressed into my flesh. A searing pain shot through me. Warm blood trickled down my cheek, dripping onto the stone. I gritted my teeth and didn't make a single sound. On my left cheek, she carved a crooked character for sword. After carving it, she grabbed my hair and forced me to lift my blood-covered face to show those ministers whose eyes were bulging and struggling desperately. "Take a good look. This is no longer a princess. From now on, she is just a branded face, a lowly pariah, the lowest slave in our northern kingdom." With that, Lan Zhu waved to the executioner. The blade suddenly flashed up, blinding, too harsh to look at. "Princess!" The old censor's cry was cut short. No more sound. Hot liquid splashed all over my face and body. The thick, pungent smell of blood overwhelmed the previous stench, suffocating. The carved word on my face burned with pain, but I couldn't tell if it hurt more on my face or in my heart. I could no longer hold on. Darkness swallowed me little by little, until I lost consciousness completely. When I woke again, what lingered at the tip of my nose was no longer the smell of blood and burning, but the bitter scent of medicine. I slowly opened my eyes. What met my gaze was Mo Zeyuan's unfathomable eyes. He sat by my bedside, toying with a small white jade porcelain bottle, his expression unreadable. "Awake?" His voice was low and calm. Unlike the tone he used to scold me that day, it was like a different person. I moved my cracked lips. My throat was dry and painful. I couldn't utter a single word. The scar on my face, with a slight movement of muscles, stung sharply, clearly reminding me of everything that happened before I fainted. The stench, the blood, the cries of grief, and his cold words, "A broken piece is also fine." He placed the small white jade bottle by my pillow. "Good medicine for wounds. Apply daily. It will scar." He paused. His gaze fell on my bandaged left cheek. "Wait a little longer, princess." His voice slowed even more, with a hint of coaxing barely perceptible. "Once everything settles down, everything will be better. Everything will be fine." I looked at him, trying to find on his face any trace of guilt or pity, but there was nothing, as if offering this trivial care was already a great favor from him. I lowered my eyelashes, hiding all the coldness in my eyes, and responded with a very soft, He sat by the bed for a moment, instructed the servants to take good care of me, then stood up and left. His back was tall and proud, exuding the authority of a ruler, no longer the one who needed my protection. After he left, I slowly raised my hand and picked up the cold bottle of wound medicine, pulled out the stopper. A rich medicinal scent hit me. It was indeed a top-grade wound remedy. Promotes blood circulation and healing. Priceless. I smiled, mockingly. Then, without hesitation, I took that bottle of medicine and poured it into the brazier. A soft hiss. The flames ignited instantly, accompanied by a wisp of smoke and a burnt smell. I need this scar. I want the word shameless deeply, permanently carved into my skin, into my bones, into my soul, to remind me at every moment of all the humiliation I suffered today. Remind me of Da Xia's national vendetta, the blood feud of my family, the kindness of the old ministers. The pain was excruciatingly clear, but it kept me awake. Lan Zhu still often deigned to visit me. Her favorite thing to do was to admire the increasingly hideous scar on my face. "Oh, this character really gains more style the more I look at it." With her sharp fingernails painted with henna, she traced the contours of my cheek. "It complements your face perfectly. If His Highness sees it, he'll probably detest you even more." She humiliated me in various ways. Sometimes she ordered me to kneel on the ground, to wipe the tip of her shoes, where there wasn't even any dust. Sometimes she forced me to eat the already spoiled and cold leftovers covered in dust. I did everything she asked, obediently, like a true slave. Even when she deliberately knocked over the boiling hot tea and watched blisters form on the back of my hand, I could still respectfully say one thing: "Thank you, Your Highness, for the favor." My obedience, and this scar-covered face, seemed to have made her lose interest in tormenting me. She came less and less often, from coming every day at first, to once every 3 or 5 days later, to eventually not even once in half a month. That day, Lan Zhu came again. She wanted to order me to kneel in the snow to warm her feet, but was stopped by Mo Zeyuan's guards. They whispered that the high priest was involved in a case. The crown princess must reflect behind closed doors. She was not allowed to leave the palace freely. Lan Zhu's face turned ashen, but she dared not defy. She shot me a furious glare before storming off, until one day, she stopped coming altogether. The palace servants whispered among themselves. Their tone was full of fear and curiosity. I sat in the corner, listening quietly. I caught a few fragments. The high priest embezzled military funds and was thrown into prison. After several days passed, Mo Zeyuan came. He looked a bit tired, but his eyes were still sharp as an eagle's, still surrounded by the lingering aura of slaughter. Get up. I didn't ask why. I just silently stood up. I followed behind him with downcast eyes. He didn't say another word, and I didn't ask anything either. In the vast palace corridor, only the sound of our footsteps. He took me to the imperial prison. It's dark and damp here. Moss covers the walls. With every step, you can hear the faint groans of the prisoners, curses that send chills down your spine. Walking to the deepest part of the imperial prison, in front of a cell, I saw Lanju. She was curled up on the filthy, damp straw. Once splendid clothes were now tattered, stained with filth and blood. Her hair was matted to her face. Her face was covered with tear streaks and dust. Hearing footsteps, she looked up in terror, her eyes bloodshot. The moment she saw Mo Zeyuan, in those lifeless eyes suddenly flared a fierce hope. Your Highness. Your Highness, have you come to save me? She struggled to crawl over, but the chains on her feet pulled her back. Her voice was choked with tears and pleading. Father is innocent. He was framed by others. Those old fogies are jealous of us. They deliberately set us up. Your Highness, please believe me this once. Her cries when she saw me standing behind Mo Zeyuan abruptly stopped. The hope on her face instantly faded, replaced by incredulous shock. You bitch. What are you doing here? It's you. You must have framed my father and me. Your Highness, don't be fooled by her. She's a femme fatale from a fallen kingdom. Her heart is wicked. Mo Zeyuan, from start to finish, didn't even look at her. He just stood there with his hands behind his back, his voice icy cold. Innocent? The evidence is ironclad. There's no room for your denial. You and your father, using the high priest's divine authority, formed a clique, lined your pockets, embezzled military funds, and undermined the kingdom's foundation. Unforgivable. He gave a slight chin lift to the guard behind him. Treat her exactly as she treated the princess. Be careful, don't let her die. I want her to live, and remember this day. Lan Zhu's eyes widened in terror. Her face turned deathly pale. She struggled wildly. No. Mo Zeyuan, you can't do this to me. My father helped you ascend the throne, cleared obstacles for you. I've been loyal to you. How can you discard me now? I'm your crown princess. The guards didn't hesitate. They rushed forward roughly, grabbed her by the hair, and pressed her against the cold, damp stone wall, holding her motionless. Another guard drew a dagger from his belt, a flash of cold steel, making Lan Zhu's face even paler. Only then did Mo Zeyuan slowly turn to me. His eyes, in the chaos of the prison, seemed particularly deep and dark, unreadable. He looked at me, paused, then added. His tone carried a deliberate air. I'll avenge you. I watched quietly and said nothing. My face showed no expression. The tip of the dagger precisely landed on Lan Zhu's delicate cheek. She let out a piercing inhuman scream that echoed through the entire imperial prison. Blood gushed out instantly. The guard's hand was steady, without a trace of hesitation. Exactly the same as when Lan Zhu carved on me back then. The same word, slave, only it was neater than what was carved on my face and more vicious. The scabbed scar on my face burned faintly, but deep in my heart, it was a dead, icy cold, with no ripples at all. No satisfaction. This wasn't vengeance for me. I knew clearly this was just his game of power. The hounds are killed once they've caught the hare. The bow is put away when the birds are gone. Lan Zhu and her father were of no more use. Keeping them would only be a risk, so under the pretense of avenging me he got rid of them. He purged his opponents while demonstrating his absolute authority to me and threw in a laughable compensation. But the humiliation I suffered, the brutal deaths of the old ministers, the blood debt of my father and brother could never be erased by a word like slave. Lan Zhu fainted from the pain. Like a worn-out rag, she was discarded in the corner by the guards. Blood kept seeping from her face, mixing with the filth in the straw. A wretched sight. Mo Zeyuan looked at me, his eyes burning as if expecting my reaction. But I only slowly bent my knees, performing a standard, respectful bow. Thank you, Your Majesty, for seeking justice for this servant. The faint light in his eyes seemed to instantly dim after hearing my words. A flicker of barely perceptible disappointment crossed his face, but he said nothing. He just gave me a long, deep look, turned and walked straight out of the cell. Not long after news of the Northern Kingdom's old emperor's death spread throughout the capital, Mo Zeyuan, having long planned everything with an iron fist, swiftly suppressed all potential opposition, and smoothly ascended the throne as the new emperor of the Northern Kingdom. The coronation was a grand spectacle. The first decree after the ceremony was not a general amnesty to pacify the people, nor was it rewards for the ministers who fought alongside him, but to ennoble Princess Anning of the fallen Daxia dynasty as the Empress of the Northern Kingdom. As soon as the decree was issued, the entire court was in uproar. The officialdom buzzed with excitement, voices of dissent echoing endlessly. Your Majesty, you must not. This woman is a femme fatale from a fallen kingdom, a remnant of Daxia. How can she be made empress? She will bring chaos to the court, and shake the very foundation of the state, Your Majesty. Daxia is our northern kingdom's mortal enemy. She is Daxia's princess, her heart is surely different. She has no loyalty to our northern kingdom. Sparing her life is already a great grace. How can we honor her to this extent? Let her be the mother of the nation. Your Majesty, I know you cherish old bonds. But this move is too absurd. It will chill the hearts of the people. Even more, it chills the hearts of the soldiers who fought beside you and pacified the land. I beg your Majesty to reconsider. Mo Zeyuan sat on the high dragon throne, his face as still as water, listening silently to the clamorous waves of opposition below without a word, not a ripple in his eyes. Finally, he suddenly slapped the armrest of his wheelchair. The sound was not loud, yet it plunged the entire hall into dead silence. All opposition came to an abrupt halt, only the heavy breathing of the crowd remained. My mind is made up. His gaze slowly swept across the faces below, each one either angry or confused, his eyes sharp as knives, carrying the unquestionable majesty of an emperor. I made this vow when I was still humble, I will keep it. Whoever dares to question the empress again will be deemed defying the imperial edict and be executed on the spot. Your Majesty is wise. The decree is recorded. The entire palace bustled with activity. Only I, day after day, seemed adrift from this noisy world. On the eve of the grand wedding, I sat alone before the mirror. My fingers unconsciously traced the deep scar on my left cheek. The bronze mirror reflected a pale, lifeless face, my eyes empty. The hall door burst open. Mo Zeyuan stepped in, clad in a black dragon robe, bringing a chilling coldness as if freezing the air in the room. Silence stretched in the hall for a long time. Finally, he spoke, his voice taut like a string. And Ning, tomorrow is the wedding. I slowly turned around, my face calm and unreadable. Your Majesty's decree is issued. I have no choice but to obey. His face suddenly darkened, his fists clenched until the knuckles turned white, his voice suddenly rose. Obey is obey. About me and this marriage, is that all you have to say? I said nothing more, only lowered my eyes, my heart as calm as a dry well, as if pierced by the dead silence. He commanded sharply. I don't care what you think. Tomorrow you will be my empress. This is the vow you and I made back then. Vow. A faint smile tugged at the corner of my mouth. I turned my back to him. Your Majesty, please return. Tomorrow, I will complete the ceremony. On the wedding day, joyful music filled the air. The entire palace was wrapped in festive red. But to me, the festivity felt bitterly ironic. I was adorned with a phoenix crown and bridal gown, the elaborate northern queen ceremonial dress, embroidered with golden wolf totems, gorgeous and heavy. It almost suffocated me. The attendants applied thick makeup, layer after layer, trying to cover up the gruesome scar carved on my left cheek. But the scar was too deep, already embedded in the flesh. No matter how they tried to hide it, it clung stubbornly to my pale cheek. I sat before the mirror, letting the attendants fuss over me, like a soulless puppet. My face showed none of the shyness or joy a bride should have, only a dead calm. My lady, the auspicious hour has come. It's time to proceed to the ceremony altar. The matchmaker's voice was sycophantic, reminding me cautiously. I slowly stood up, staggering under the heavy gown. The attendants rushed to support me, but I gently pushed them away, walking step by step toward the palace gate. The sky's sacrifice, the bowing of officials. After a tedious and grand ritual, my body was stiff, barely able to hold up. I felt all my strength drained away. After the ceremony, I was escorted to the newly renovated Fengyi Palace. This palace, once my mother's, still had its carved beams and painted rafters, the pavilions and towers unchanged. Yet everywhere there was a cold, unfamiliar northern style, and none of the familiar warmth. Night fell. Inside and outside the palace, the clamor of wedding music and feasting gradually faded. The palace door was pushed open. Mo Zeyuan, reeking of alcohol, walked in. He had changed out of his coronation robe, wearing only a dark red casual gown. His dark hair hung loose over his shoulders. Gone was the daytime imperial majesty, but his eyes still held a strange heat. He dismissed all the attendants, including the guards and maids outside. In the vast Fengyi palace, only he and I remained. The red candlelight flickered unsteadily. He stepped closer, his eyes fixed on my figure under the red veil. His step seemed to pause for a moment, and his aura softened a little. Finally, he stopped right in front of me, and halted. After a moment of silence, Anning, he called softly, his voice hoarse from alcohol, with an indescribable complexity, an emotion like guilt, or some obsessive possessiveness. We finally. He didn't finish. I abruptly reached out, and lifted the red veil myself. Under the heavy phoenix crown, in the red candlelight, my left cheek scar looked even more glaring and hideous. There's no trace of a smile on his face, only a dead calm, indescribably harsh to the eye, and indescribably eerie. I saw Mo Zeyuan's pupils suddenly contract. The softness on his face shattered instantly. A flicker of shock flashed in his eyes, then a barely perceptible pang of hurt, as if something had stabbed him deeply. He seemed not to have expected that I would so decisively lift the bridal veil, and even less did he expect that I would so calmly reveal this scar. Almost at the same time, the hand hidden in my wide sleeve suddenly whipped out. A flash of cold light burst from my sleeve. The blade reflected the flickering candlelight, radiating an icy, bone-chilling cold. The dagger I'd hidden for so long thrust straight toward his heart. There, where his heart beat, the place I had once, when I saved him, fought with all my might to protect. And now, the place I fought with all my might to pierce through. It all happened too fast, too decisive, without a moment's hesitation, without a trace of reluctance. The red candles flickered, light and shadow dappled, illuminating my pale face, and the determination in my eyes, and also his startled brows and eyes, and the cold dagger, about to pierce his heart. His pupils suddenly contracted. He instinctively twisted sideways to dodge. A dull thud of a blade piercing flesh in the silent palace sounded especially shocking. The dagger didn't, as I had expected, strike his heart precisely, but veered slightly and plunged deep into his chest, a bit higher up, only inches from his heart. Warm blood gushed out instantly, staining his dark red robe, the color deepening, darkening, almost black. He let out a muffled grunt, looked down in disbelief at the dagger embedded in his chest, then snapped his head up to look at me. In those eyes, always so deep and unfathomable, my reflection appeared clearly for the first time. A person with icy eyes, an avenger holding a bloody dagger. The intense pain made his body sway, but he didn't fall immediately. Instead, he suddenly raised his hand and grabbed hold of my hand on the dagger. His grip was so strong, it nearly crushed my bones. He opened his mouth. Blood immediately trickled from the corner of his lips. His voice was fractured, yet filled with utmost shock and pain. "You still hate me after all." I met his shocked and pained gaze. My face finally broke into a truly carefree, hearty laugh. The smile tugged at the hideous scar on my cheek, looking especially terrifying in the flickering candlelight. "Hate?" My voice was as soft as a whisper. "Mo Zeyuan, you're mistaken. This isn't hate, it's interest. This is for my great Xia nation. The interest demanded by thousands of its people. Winner takes all. Fair enough, isn't it?" I said, and suddenly tightened my grip. The strength with which he gripped my wrist suddenly loosened a bit. I took the opportunity to drive the dagger deeper, ignoring the excruciating pain of my wrist almost being crushed by him. But he seemed completely enraged. He unleashed his final strength and violently shoved me away. I fell to the ground. The phoenix crown fell off. Jade ornaments shattered, scattering all over the floor. He stumbled backward, bumping into the tableware behind him. Delicacies spilled with a clatter. Amid the shattering sounds, mingled with his suppressed grunts, he pressed one hand tightly over the wound. Blood still kept seeping through his fingers. The other hand desperately held the table edge, just barely keeping him standing. The warm glow of red candles illuminated his face, pale as paper. His breathing was labored and heavy. Only those eyes, still like red-hot iron nails, bore into me. They roiled with far too many emotions. Shock, agony, anger, and a trace of despair. "Why?" Every word he said, blood gushed from his mouth. "I gave you everything, high position and honor. What you gave was never what I wanted." I slowly got up from the ground. With blood-stained hands, I straightened my disheveled robes. "What I wanted, from beginning to end, was just to take back what you stole. My home, my country, the lives of my family." Footsteps and shouts suddenly erupted. The guards outside the hall seemed to hear the commotion inside, rushed closer. "Your Majesty, there's an assassin. Protect the Emperor." The palace door was slammed open. Countless guards swarmed in. The palace gate burst open with a crash. Armor clashed. Blades gleamed like blood. In an instant, the hall was flooded. Countless blades reflected a cold light, all aimed at me in unison. Mo Zeyuan suddenly raised his hand, stopping them from their immediate charge. He stared at me intensely, his chest heaving violently, his voice faltering. "Tell me, in those years, that snowy ground, was it all fake in the Imperial Garden?" I watched him dying, yet stubbornly seeking an answer, suddenly felt utterly ridiculous. At this point, he's still asking this. In front of my eyes flashes the bloodied ground, that cowering boy. Back then he was shivering from cold, and I protected him behind me. But just as this image emerged, it was crushed by the heads of my father and brother on the city wall, the scar of the sword character on my face, the sight of old officials fighting over dog food pressed down heavily. That so-called warmth was just a facade in his 7 years of scheming. Couldn't withstand the tearing of the journey, already rotten and stinking, worth nothing. The firelight outside the hall hit my face, illuminating the blood stains all over my face, even more glaring. I faced the angry and panicked stares of the Northern Kingdom soldiers. "Your Majesty of the North, flowers in a mirror, moon in water. What is true or false?" The moment the words fell, the last faint light in his eyes suddenly extinguished with my words, leaving only a dead, gray pallor. He opened his mouth, as if to argue or ask further, but in the end just violently spat out a mouthful of blood. His body losing all support, slid softly down the edge of the table to the ground. Your Majesty! The guard's screams pierced the silence of the inn. They rushed over like mad. In the chaos, a blade tip suddenly pressed against my neck. The cold sensation crept in, wrapped in the chill of death. I didn't dodge or resist, instead leaned forward slightly. The pain of the blade cutting my skin was light. Warm blood trickled down my neck, but I didn't care, just felt numb all over. Finally able to be free. My vision slowly blurred, the screams in my ears, the cries and footsteps all fading away, like being wrapped in a layer of cotton, consciousness sinking bit by bit, falling into boundless darkness. In a daze, I returned to that winter that chilled to the bone. I took the half piece of sweet cake warmed in my arms and quietly slipped it to the corner of the changing room, to that little boy whose lips were purple from cold. He suddenly looked up, his eyes bright as if stars had fallen. Princess, when I grow up, I will marry you, so you can have sweet cake every day and never be hungry again. So easy to fool, I thought dazedly, a faint smile even tugged at the corner of my mouth. Too bad, that half piece of sweet cake from back then has long gone sour, and we can never return to that winter.